The trailer for James Gunn's Superman just dropped, and it's giving original Superman vibes. So it seemed like a good time to discuss the Superman franchise, specifically Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, and the power of fan persistence. Hey, I'm Mike. I studied film, I work in TV, and I love movies. Superman began as a comic book character and later was realized on 1950s television by George Reeves. But in 1978, director Richard Donner gave us a different perspective on Superman. Donner's Superman was dark and conflicted.
Pink. Huh? Pink.
Christopher Reeve, no relation to George, was cast as the Man of Steel. He was a man who had been gifted great power and needed to learn to control it and use it for the good of all mankind. He's forced to play the fool when disguised as Clark Kent. In the 1978 Superman, we see young Clark Kent wrestling with the idea of beating all the other kids in high school sports because he can. He's better than they are. Instead, he has to hide his talent, pretend he's normal, unremarkable. The story is mature and complex. I mean, what would you expect? It was written by Mario Puzo of Godfather fame, who also shared the screenwriting credit. And because Mario Puzo can't contain himself to one movie, he wrote the sequel too. Donner, along with producer Alexander Salkin, who had bought the film rights to the character, decided to shoot both movies at the same time. Because why not?
Why build one when you can have two at twice the price?
In 1978, Superman and Superman 2 were the most expensive films ever made, with a budget of $55 million. After a tense 19-month-long shoot, Donner had the first Superman completed and a significant portion of Superman 2 in the can, but he was running over budget and behind schedule, and communications between Donner and Salkin had broken down. Donner was removed and replaced with director Richard Lester. Lester was known for directing Help and A Hard Day's Night with the Beatles, and for his work with Peter Sellers. The choice to have Lester, a comedy director, take over for Donner, who was in the middle of reimagining Superman as a dark, complex character, wasn't an obvious one, and resulted in a noticeable shift in tone for Superman 2. Donner had completed almost all the major character-based sequences in Superman 2, all the scenes in the Daily Planet, and most of the scenes set in the Fortress of Solitude. All scenes featuring Marlon Brando, Ned Beatty, Jackie Cooper, Valerie Perrine, and Gene Hackman were also completed. What remained to be filmed was the villains' arrival on Earth and their rampage through Midwest America, as well as exteriors in Metropolis. Most of the battle scenes between Superman and the supervillains had yet to be shot, as well as both the interiors and exteriors for the Niagara Falls scenes. Lester completed the remainder of Superman 2 for its theatrical release, but also rewrote and reshot a substantial portion of Donner's footage in order to receive full director's credit. While the sequel was a critical and financial success upon release, not everyone praised it. Critics of Lester's Superman 2, including Donner, stated that Lester's penchant for comedy undermined the integrity of the film, especially when compared to Donner's original Superman. Examples of Lester's trademark comedy are evident during scenes which feature Superman fighting the supervillains in Metropolis. Zod and his crew attack the citizens using super breath. Several sight gags follow, including wind blowing off a man's toupee, ice cream being blown off a cone into someone's face, a man on roller skates being blown backwards, things like that. And that would have been the end of it, if not for the 2001 re-release on DVD. Donner's original Superman was being restored, and the studio uncovered reams of footage from both Superman films in the vaults, including footage thought to be lost that was filmed by Donner. Interest in Donner's cut of Superman 2 started to grow after a community of online fans began petitioning for Warner Brothers to release Donner's vision. Most notably, a website sprung up, supermancinema.co.uk, which led the charge for the release of the Richard Donner cut. In May 2004, the Planet of the Apes fan site, theforbiddenzone.com, launched an internet campaign demanding Warner Brothers to allow Donner to release his version of Superman 2 in conjunction with the film's 25th anniversary. Soon after, Margot Kidder said in an interview, quote, "There's a whole other Superman 2 in a vault somewhere, with scenes of Chris and me that have never seen the light of day. It's far better than the one that was released." Eventually, Donner was approached by Warner to do an extended version of Superman 2, but remained reluctant to revisit the movie. He told the website IGN, quote, "Quite honestly, I was done with it. I was finished." But Donner wasn't the only roadblock. The project remained in legal limbo for a number of years because of Marlon Brando's estate, who would not agree to the use of the late actor's likeness. In 2006, when Warner was granted the rights to use some Brando footage for Superman Returns, the two parties returned to the negotiating table, and Brando's estate agreed that they would allow footage of Brando for the Donner cut. Work began in 2005, restoring Donner's vision without Richard Donner at first. He was busy on other projects and continued to claim that he was done with it. But Warner lured him back as the picture started to take shape, and Donner eventually did get involved. The Donner cut features most of the completed but previously unseen scenes. utilizes some alternate takes that Donner preferred, and removes scenes that Lester added. Some of the biggest differences are, for starters, the opening scene in the Daily Planet. Lois has a suspicion that Clark Kent is Superman, and she's drawing glasses on a photo of Superman in the newspaper. There's an additional scene between Christopher Reeve and Marlon Brando in the Fortress of Solitude that we hadn't seen before, but most notably is the scene inside the Niagara Falls hotel room where Lois Lane has figured out that Clark Kent is indeed Superman. In the release version, Clark trips into the fire, accidentally revealing his identity to Lois. But in Donner's version, Lois shoots him with a pistol.
Lois, now don't be crazy now. What?
When Clark is unharmed, he reveals his true identity, and only then does Lois tell him that she was using blanks. The scene was reconstructed using Christopher Reeve's screen test with another actress and Margot Kidder's screen test opposite Reeves himself. You'll notice their wardrobe changed from shot to shot, and that's why. The Donner cut was released on home video in 2006 and scores mildly higher than the original on Rotten Tomatoes. I grew up a huge Superman fan and couldn't wait to see the Donner cut when it was released. Ultimately, though, I think I have a hot take on this one. I like the combination of Donner and Lester's Superman. I know. Donner's version is darker and heavier, and Lester brought out a slightly comedic thread, but honestly, he really restrained himself. I truly believe that Richard Lester was trying the best he could to see Richard Donner's vision through. After all, Superman began as a comic book, so a little camp isn't terrible. Critics have pointed to Gene Hackman's portrayal of Lex Luthor as an example of Lester's penchant for comedy, but Lester didn't shoot one frame of film with Hackman. Lex Luthor, Miss Desbacher, and Otis were all part of Donner's original film. All that said, Lester did take it too far with Superman 3, which starred Richard Pryor opposite Reeves. It just became a farce.
Watch the trees.
The franchise went on to produce Superman 4 and a Supergirl film starring Helen Slater. Superman was rebooted again in 2006 with Bryan Singer's mediocre Superman Returns starring Brandon Routh. Superman Returns attempted to pick the story up following Superman 2, forgetting all about 3 and 4 and Supergirl altogether. Then we got Man of Steel in 2013, yet another attempt to reboot the struggling Superman franchise, this time with Henry Cavill as Superman. And now, in 2025, James Gunn's Superman will star David Corenswet. I have high hopes for James Gunn's Superman reboot. After all, he's the guy behind Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think blends action and comedy really, really well. I grew up on Reeves' Superman movies and Donner and Lester's vision for the franchise. I'd like to see a little of both of their visions in the new James Gunn movie. I guess we'll have to see. Until then, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. Film is about community. I'm Mike, and I love movies.